It's that she go, no, she on the flow. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's that
Looping is nothing but executing a set of instructions repeatedly until a certain condition satisfies, right? So, and we need to make sure that this particular loop will not execute in an infinite manner. That means there should be some stop for the looping, right? Now, whenever we want to write a looping, we need to consider three important points. What are those three important points? We need to concentrate on an initialization that says from which point you want to start a looping process. Second one, condition. That means upon a satisfying a what condition does the loop need to be repeated. That is a condition. Third one is the update. Update in the sense after repeating a set of instructions, what update I need to perform. That is the update part, right? So we have seen a syntax of a while. When you are writing a while, so means this is a syntax of a while statement. When you are writing a while statement, initialization will be done before a while. Condition will be taken care as a part of a while statement, and updation need to be done within the body of a while statement, right? And updation need to be done in a such a way that at a some point of time, this particular condition will be broken, right? Okay. So what we have said, what we were telling till now is we need to, so means we need to have a concentration on these three important factors. One is the initialization, second one is the condition and updation. With respect to while, initialization will be done before a while statement, then a condition as a part of a while, and updation within the body of a while, right? Now, with respect to for, right? So when you are writing a for loop, initialization, that will be a first expression. Generally, how a for loop will be written, you will be having a syntax. If you are seeing a syntax, then it will be something like this. You will be writing expression 1 followed by expression 2 semicolon followed by expression 3, right? So this is how you will be writing, and there will be a curly braces. So within this curly braces, you will be having a statements which will be executed upon a satisfying a condition. This is the general syntax of a for loop, right? So what will be a first expression? In the maximum times, the first expression will be a initialization process, and the second expression will be a condition, okay, and the third expression is the update, right? So upon a satisfying a condition, what has to be done, that will be written as a body of this particular for loop, right? So this is how you will be writing a for loop, right? So what is the difference if you are talking about a while loop and a for loop? Because with respect to while, everything has been placed separately. Initialization will be first, then the condition, then within that particular loop, updation. Here, all the three statements have been put within that particular for, right? So initialization, condition, update, everything has been taken at a one place, right? Written at a one place, but it will not be executing in that particular fashion itself, right? So first initialization will be done, then it will be checking a condition. If a condition is true, this set of statements will be executed. Upon executing this set of statements, it will perform update. After performing the update, again it will check for the condition, right? Now also if a condition satisfies, then it will go inside of these particular statements, right? So this is the process of executing a for loop, right? So before we proceed with a further explanation on these things, can anybody just answer me a small question? My question is, when to use which loop? When to use a while loop and when to use a for loop? When you know what exactly has to be done, that means when you know how many times your particular loop has to work, in that case you will be using a for loop. When you don't know how many times your particular loop need to work, so in that case you will be going with a while loop, right? So now let us consider an example to understand a looping perspective in a better fashion. Suppose you want to have a chapati for the breakfast. Suppose for the breakfast you wanted to have chapati. right? Now the question is, how many chapatis you can have for the breakfast, all right? Or till what condition you will be continuing this process of having a chapati, right? What I mean to say is, till what condition you will be continuing to have this particular chapati, right? So what is the condition? Until your stomach is full, right? So this is the condition. That means until my stomach is full, I'll be continuing to have a chapati. Will you be having a complete chapati at a one time? No, you will be having the pieces of it, not a continue. So means not a complete chapati at a one iteration, right? Now, if you want me to write a looping part of this particular scenario, it will be something like this, right? So when you will be starting a process of having the things, when that particular chapati is in a plate, right? Initialization, right? So now I will say something like plate has been occupied with, this is not a hard coding, this is a coding just to understand what exactly the things are happening. You should be in a position to relate the things, okay? Question in a chat box. While loop depends on the condition. For loop is used to iterate over elements of a sequence, but a while loop is used to repeat. Okay, so first let me finish this particular explanation, then we will see what exactly she wanted to tell. Right? So what I'm saying is, you wanted to have a chapatis, till what value you will be having a chapati, until your stomach is full, you will be having a chapati, right? So I'm writing this particular scenario with respect to while loop. Let me finish the explanation, then I'll see the questions in the chat box, right? So this is initialization process. That means I wanted to put a chapati into the plate first, right? So once I have a chapati in my plate, while I'll be checking whether stomach is full, right? If it is a full, no need to have a, right? If it is full, right? So let me just negate this particular condition, saying that while stomach is not full, right? When a stomach is not full, then only you will be having a content, right? When a stomach is not full, have a bite, right? When you have a bite, then can I say bite plus plus? You'll be having a count like now how many number of bytes you had. This is a looping process, right? So what has been done now? Until my stomach is full, this will be repeated, having each bite at a time, right? So initialized with a chapati, so means a plate has been filled with a chapati. I'm just cross checking whether a stomach is full or not. If it is not full, I'll start having a bites, right? So every time I have a bite, I'll be incrementing a bite plus plus, right? So after having a bite, again I am checking whether a stomach is full. If it is not full, then if a condition is satisfied, I'll go inside a while loop. So then again have a bite, right? So what is the scenario here? Here the scenario is, you have only one condition, that you are just checking whether a stomach is full or not, right? So are there any limit in the number of chapatis here? No limit in the number of chapatis. You can have a n number of chapatis, no problem here, right? So let me write a same scenario in another fashion, where I am using a for loop, right? For what is a initialization, right? Initialization is, your plate need to be added with a chapati. Added, what a condition you are checking? You will be checking whether stomach is full or not. Stomach is full or not. Right? Now, if you have a condition saying that number of bites you want to take is I'll be doing a byte plus plus. If you have a condition saying that you don't want to have more than some 50 bytes, if I consider 10 bytes for a one chapati, I'll be saying like, I don't want to have a more than 5 chapatis. That means I have a limit now. That means I have a put a conditions. That means I have a complete view of how many times this particular loop will be executed. Right? If you are on a diet, you don't want to have a much of a food, right? So when you know, I just want to restrict myself to only these many number of chapatis, right? When you know how many number of chapatis you want to have, or when you completely know when to stop a loop, right? So in those scenarios, you will be going with a for loop. When you know complete loop, when you want to stop, right? So in that scenario, you will be going with a for loop. When you don't know when to stop, just started a loop until it is full, until the stomach is full, you will be repeating, right? Here, it is not the case. It is a case something like you wanted to have some 4 chapatis, right? So until a 4 chapatis, only the loop will work. After a 4 chapatis you crossed, then you want to stop the loop, right? When you know complete loop like initialization condition and when to stop, then you will be going with a for loop. Okay, if you know only the condition, you don't know when to stop the things, you know only one condition, upon a not satisfying of this condition I want to stop. If you have only that scenario, then you will be going with the while. Did I made things clear? Now we'll see the questions. If you have any questions also, you can post the questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you explain again this for?
For loop.
Yes.
Okay. For loop, initially I have taken a content into a plate, checking whether the stomach is full or not. If a stomach is not full, then only loop will be executed. Once a loop has been executed, there will be some limit for a bytes, right? So what I'm saying is, in a for loop, I'll be writing a condition something like this, something like whether number of bytes taken is less than or equal to 15. Right? So means don't directly relate this particular pseudocode, understand a scenario, right? So what scenario I'm saying is, in the first case, my intention was not with respect, means no need to concentrate on a number of chapatis. I just wanted to fill my stomach, right? So that was a condition. I'll not be knowing like how many chapatis I might be having. That was the first scenario with respect to while. That means if you don't know how many times the loop might be repeated, in that scenario you will be going with the while. If you know that, if you are putting a restriction saying that I just wanted to have only 3 chapatis, right? When you have a restriction and when you clearly know when to stop a loop, in that scenario you will be going with the for loop. I just try to put that particular things in a pseudocode fashion, but don't write this one as a program, or don't try to relate this one exactly for the working of a for. If you want to make a clear idea, so let it be something like this. Something like now I want to concentrate on a number of chapatis. I don't want to concentrate on a byte. I want to just concentrate on a number of chapatis. It should not be more than 3, right? So every time if I finish, I'll be incrementing this particular number of chapatis. Right? So in this scenario, my intention is this one, means I want to limit my food with respect to a number of chapatis. Did I make sense? Are you able to relate when to use a while and when to use a for loop?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Aman Kumar, we need a 12 Xerox is for a loop and chapati for until is while. Yes. Aman, I didn't understood your question. Does your question still remains after this explanation? Okay. So Bijay has got. Bijay, did I answer your question or you have that question still in your mind? It means if a for loop we will be performing according to initial condition, and with a while loop we will be performing for a condition. Okay, don't get confused. Just let me make the things simple. What I'm saying is, when you know how many times the loop will be executing, when you know how many times a loop will be executing, go with the for loop. When you don't know how many times a loop will be executing, right, then you go with the while loop.
Sorry, sir.
Ah,
It means that in while loop there is no limit.
no limit.
In
That
for
means what
loop
I'm saying is,
there is limit.
there is limit. How I can relate to you is, say for example, you are searching for something, right? What you will do is, you will be in a complete loop. That means until you find that particular element, you will be searching only, right? So this is an example where I can say this is similar to a while. The same thing I'll tell you in another fashion. You are searching for a one particular element, something, right? You will stop at that particular search after some time. That means I'll give you a some time, saying that for 1 hour you will search for this particular item. After this particular 1 hour you stop a searching, right? Now I got a complete idea. That means I have to repeat this particular process for 1 hour. After that I have to come back, or this particular looping has to be done only for 1 hour. If you know clear idea, that means when you need to stop that particular set of instructions execution, then you go for a for loop. When you want to stop, if you know when to stop, then go with a for loop. If you don't know when to stop, then go with a while loop. Aman Kumar, yes, we can say until in a while. Yes, until that particular condition is become a false, you will be at that particular loop itself. Did I made a things clear? Shall we proceed with
Yes, sir.
an example using a for loop? Yeah, question. Any questions done?
No, sir. Clear.
Yes. Let us take a small example just to understand this particular for statement. Once you are clear with the basic explanation what I am doing, then we will see the variation of that. Class loop demo. Public static void main string args of array. Int, not write anything here. For, can I write it something like this? Int x is equal to 1. Int x is equal to 1. X is less than or equal to 3. X plus plus. Right? System dot out dot println. That file name, class name I have given as class loop demo. So let me save that particular file. Hope you are seeing the screen whatever I am writing. Okay. In a Java folder, let me create a file with the same name, loop.demo.java. Saved. What might be the output? What might be the output? Will it give any errors? Can you predict the output? Just a cross check. I think it might be giving some errors. Did we miss anything? Whether we have written everything properly? No error, 3 times high. Okay. No errors. Let us just cross check. Java C loopdemo.java. Yes, compiled fine. No syntax errors. Yes, and it has printed hi for me thrice. Right? So are you clear with the basic working of a for loop?
Yes, sir.
Can I conclude a few points? Point number 1. I can declare a variable in an initialization section. Right? I can declare a variable in an initialization section. And it is not mandatory put the curly brace if you have only one statement in the loop. Right? It is not mandatory to put curly brace if you have only one statement inside the loop. Right? If you have a more than one statement, then those statements need to be enclosed in a curly brace. Clear? Right. So let me just take a 1 minute and explain how this particular process has been happened, because a few people might not be knowing the working of a for them. Let me explain for 2 minutes. If you don't have any issues, then we will modify this particular for to understand it in a better fashion. Right? So the first step, it will go to a initialization part. In a initialization part, you have a given x is equal to 1. So x will be initialized. Any questions? Right. X will be initialized first. Right. So how many times initialization process will occur? It will be occurring only one time. Initialization will be taken place only once. Upon initialization, it will be checking for a condition. If a condition is true, does a 1 is less than or equal to 3? Does the condition satisfies? Yes, it satisfies. Upon a satisfying a condition, it will enter inside the body of the for loop. Right? It will print this particular statement. That means after finishing the execution of all the statements in a for loop, then it will go to an increment or a decrement. That means update section. Right? So after finishing a update, again it will go back to a condition, checks a condition. If a condition still remains same, that is a true, it will be going to this particular process. Right? So this will be repeated. Right? So what you have to remember is initialization will be done only once, then a condition will be checked, entered into a loop. After finishing a loop, updation will be done, then followed by the condition check. Right? So this will be repeated until a condition becomes false. Right? Hope no questions with respect to this one. I'll give you 1 minute. If you have any questions, you can post. If you don't have a question, then we will modify this particular program. Why 3 times only? Because that is how you wrote a loop, right? Initially value of x will be 1. 1 will be checked whether 1 is less than or equal to 3. Yes, condition satisfies. First time high will be printed. After printing this, what you are saying? I x plus plus. X plus plus in the sense now 1 will become a 2. 2 will be checked whether 2 is less than or equal to 3. 2 is less than or equal to 3. Yes, it is less than. Condition satisfies, prints a high. Second high you got. X will be incremented. Now the value of x will become a 3. Right? Condition will be checked whether 3 is less than or equal to 3. Does the condition satisfies? Yes, 3 is equal to 3. Condition satisfies. So it goes to a system.out.println and a prints high. Printed high thrice. X will be incremented. Now x will become a 4. 4 will be checked whether 4 is less than or equal to 3. No, 4 is not a less than or equal to 3. Condition will break. It will come out of a for loop. You didn't write anything outside a for loop. So in output, you will be getting a 3 highs. Did I made it clear or you need a... Okay. Any other questions? See, let me tell you what are the things we have discussed. First, we have started with the definition of a looping. Then we have discussed the syntax of a while. Then we have discussed the syntax of a for. And we have related both the things and discussed when to go with what kind of a construct, right? So then now we are seeing a simple example on a for loop. Is this clear? Shall we analyze each and every part of this particular for loop? Right. No questions means? Yes, clear. Now let us analyze what are the things that are valid with respect to initialization, what are the things that are invalid with respect to initialization, right? So the question number 1, can I have this particular initialization outside a for loop? You should be very quick. Once I ask a question, please post something in a chat box. Is it a valid way? Can we have an initialization process outside a for loop? Then within a for loop, first value, I will not be writing anything because already I have done initialization outside itself, right?
Okay.
Then it will be condition followed by updation. Is it fine to do like this?
Yes, sir.
Few people are saying no. Let us just cross check whether it will give me some error or not. Saved a file, compiled well, got the same output, right? So now can I say some conclusion saying that initialization process, it is that particular statement. That means first part is the initialization, right? So that particular statement is not mandatory, that is optional, right? If you are not writing this particular part, you can handle that particular initialization before that particular for loop also. Clear with the conclusion? Whoever said no, whoever has said error. Initialization statement is not mandatory to write at that particular place itself, right? If you want to write it before the for loop, you can do that, no problem. Shall I proceed? Any cross questions with respect to this particular conclusion? Sir, why semicolon inside? Sir, but the syntax is different. Syntax is different. Okay. What does the syntax says? Syntax says that for you have to write initialization, you have to write a condition, you have to write update. It doesn't say that it should be in this fashion itself, right? What I have done with respect to this particular example, I didn't have anything to be written here. First part, I don't have anything. expression 1 is, I don't want to write anything with respect to expression 1, right? I'm just shifting this particular expression somewhere before a for loop, right? As I'm not writing anything, so means I don't want to include any information with respect to a first particular initialization. So I have kept it as a blank and I wrote a semicolon here, right? Say for example, if I didn't write a semicolon, right? If I didn't write a semicolon, what it thinks is whichever is the first thing, whichever the value you are writing here, it considers this one as an initialization. Right? According to the syntax, what a for loop says, the first expression should be first expression is an initialization, second expression is a condition, right? If I'm not writing a semicolon, it feels that this particular part is the initialization and this particular part is a condition, right? And which is not what is the exact thing. Understood? Because this was a question asked in this particular chat box. Sir, but what about a syntax then? Yes, I'm following a syntax. That is what I'm justifying. I'm following the syntax. I'm not violating the syntax. So can we write all the initial conditions and update outside? See, if you are writing update outside, then when update will happen, it will, when it comes out of a loop, then it will happen. Right? Update can be a part of a for loop. Update can be a part of a for loop. This particular update can be part of a for loop. You can write like this. Nobody is going to stop you. You can write this. Right? What you are doing here, x plus plus only, right? You are incrementing value of x with x plus plus. Let me do this one here itself. Control X. After this high, let me perform update, right? As I have a two statements to be executed, I'll put a complete statement inside a for loop now, right? So these things might give us some error because not a proper instruction. So this is my program now. Initialization has been written outside, condition I am checking, updation I am doing inside a for loop. Control S. Compiled, working fine. Right? Now how this particular loop looks? Won't it look like a while loop only? Initialization outside, while followed by condition, instructions, after that updation. Right? If you are not specifying initialization updation within that particular line, then obviously your for loop will look similar to the while loop. Did I clarify your questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes. If you are clear with this particular modification, then we will see one more modification with respect to initialization itself. Right? So what was the first conclusion? If you don't want to include an initialization part within a for, you can write it before the for statement. Swastik has got a question. But sir, syntax is expression 1. Don't write a comma, it is a semicolon. Expression 1 semicolon, expression 2 semicolon, expression 3. Then how can it recognize initialization is done outside? See, will you agree that your program will execute a line by line, right? When it is executing a line by line, obviously after initialization only it will come to a for loop, right? When it come to a for loop, obviously the value might be initialized previously itself. Then by initialization, by doing an initialization, you got a value. So means from where you need to start your loop, you will come to know from where you need to start because it has been written a previous only. Right? What I mean to say is, whatever is the syntax given, right? Expression 1 semicolon, expression 2 semicolon, expression 3. Yes, this is the syntax. But this particular syntax is saying that this is how you have to write an instruction, but it is not a putting a restrictions that this is the only way how you need to write an instructions. Right now, what we are saying is expression 1 is optional, right? If you don't want to write within a for loop, you can write it before a for loop, and make sure that you are not writing anything at the initialization. Write a semicolon saying that the first part I have already handled in some other fashion. Consider a second part and a third part. Is it clear? Right? Shall we proceed further? Right. Further modification with respect to initialization. Right. Let us consider I have taken this particular initialization here itself, removed one semicolon. At this point itself, I want to initialize one more value. Question number 1. Can I initialize more than one value in the initialization section?
నేను నచ్చితే సాధించరా సెవెన్ 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 నుంచి వైఫై
Okay.
777
Who is talking? Right. Did you understand the question? My question is, can you initialize more than one variable at the initialization section? Is it feasible, possible? Will it show any error? Am I initializing it properly? Am I following the syntax for initialization? Yes, it is perfectly fine. Yes. Now, the next question. Can I initialize more than one value in the initialization section which is of different data type? What kind of a questions you are asking, sir? You cannot declare more than one variable which is of a different type. Why? Because if you are declaring two variables of a different type, obviously you cannot write just a comma. You have to put a semicolon in between them saying that this is a separate declaration and that is a separate declaration, right? Once you are writing a semicolon, it feels that you are talking about expression 1, expression 2 and so forth. Are you able to understand? So that is the reason why it won't support declaration of variables more than one of a different data type, right? If you have a same data type, you can declare a more than one variable. We can, but in other loop. What does it mean? You can have a one more loop and then you can declare a variable. Means what I'm saying is, if you are talking about initialization, so under initialization you can declare more than one variable, but the condition is all those variables should be of a same data type, right? If you have a variables of a different data type, then you cannot declare those things here, right? A small modification, it won't take much of a time. That modification is copy, paste it here. X need to be declared, so declaring X and putting some value as a 1 into X. Can you predict what is the output of this one? Or will there be any errors? X has been initialized to 1, right? Under initialization section, I am writing some system.out.println statement saying a hi, right? So this is the initialization part. Then I am checking X is less than or equal to 3. Then I am performing X++. Within a loop, I have written something called as a hello. Is it a valid? Think. If it is a valid, what might be the answer? If you are saying error, If you are saying error. Okay, so when you are saying error, you are thinking that under initialization need to be done. Why you are writing all those system.out.println statement, right? That is your answer. Let us look what exactly is happening in the background. Will it show some errors, or will it work fine with some output given? This is the only last modification. I will not take much time for this. I have written a semicolon after plus plus. Compiled fine, no errors. What might be the output? Okay, when I say compiled fine, no errors, what might be the output of this one? Hi, hello 3 times. Okay, let us see. Can I quickly say the conclusion? Yes, conclusion is first, initialization part of a for loop is not mandatory. That is the first one. Any valid Java statement can be a part of initialization. Any valid Java statement can be a part of initialization, right? So initialization step will be executing only once throughout the life cycle of a for loop. 3 conclusions. To address these 3 conclusions, I have modified that particular program in those many number of ways, different number of ways, right? So 3 important conclusions with respect to initialization. First, it is not mandatory to write a initialization expression. Second, with respect to variables also we talk, you can declare a n number of variables, and we need to make sure that all those n number of variables are of a same data type. You cannot declare variables of a different data type. That is the second conclusion with respect to initialization. The third one is any valid Java statement can be taken as an initialization, right? So it is not mandatory that every time you need to perform an initialization process itself, you can write some statement, but generally you will not be writing in this particular fashion. So just to give you an idea, like any valid statement can be taken. So I have modified a program in this particular fashion, right? So any questions with respect to all these modifications? I'll be sharing a recording. Please go through the recording and try all the modifications and be clear with what are the changes we have done, and cross check whether all these things are valid with respect to your compiler also, whatever you are working with, right? So that's it from my side.